SEO copywriting is not writing for the search engine, it's not writing for Google, it's actually writing for the user. It's really a user-focused, user-centric. The goal of SEO copywriting for me as a writer, like I work for companies, their main goal is with copywriting, with web copy, we want to increase the traffic to our website, but you want to increase the traffic with relevant traffic. So with relevant potential customers, people that are interested in the services and products of this company, not people that are looking for generic things. So it needs to be really targeted. So we want to reach the right people. And we do it with great copy that's engaging, that's accurate, that's targeted. We will do some technical things with the copy to make sure that Google will find it. But first of all, it's writing for the user, it's writing for people, it's writing good copy. And so that's the title of our event is first, great content, and second, search engines.
And it's a process, if I may add to that, it's a process, nothing that happens in a minute or in a day. And it's a process with a goal to drive more website traffic in terms of quality and quantity. Yeah.
Yes. And then the second goal is, once we have the traffic on our website, we also want these people to convert. In the end, we want that our copy encourages them to buy a service, buy a product. Maybe that comes at a different stage of their buyer journey. But the end goal is kind of to make money as a company, right? You want to sell your services, sell your products. So actually, that's for me personally, like one of the main, reasons for SEO copywriting.
Yeah. Okay. That's and I'm just now thinking as well, a lot of people here I've seen are from the content and localization industry, of course, and I've been working with many mid-sized LSPs during the last years, helping them with their sales strategy, aligning with marketing, and what I see often is that writing the content is not the problem. Writing the content is not a problem. They have a lot of content, but it does not convert. It's just somewhere on a website, on a blog, and there's no traffic, it doesn't convert. So sometimes they have one full-time copywriter and the content's just there and doesn't do anything. I think that was a bit what you were talking about, right?
Yeah, so I guess we forget the second part of the SEO copywriting, that is optimizing the content for search engines. And I think we'll talk about it in the next question.
Yeah, indeed. So what search engines are a little bit of mystery, a little bit of black box for most people. I know for some of you not, but for me it still is, and it's changing. The algorithms are changing. So how do they work? Is it possible to describe that in a nutshell? How do search engines work?
Search engines in a nutshell. So Google has little robots that literally crawl the internet, and they look for all content that's out there and they index it. So they make a huge database to find out like what's there, what is it about, so they can show like the user like relevant content. The problem is with the Google algorithm, we don't know exactly how the algorithm looks like. It's like a secret. Nobody knows the algorithm. It's constantly changing and evolving, what you said. Google is fairly transparent in explaining what are main criteria, but it doesn't disclose like all the secrets. So we are working a little bit in a vacuum in that sense. So there are like 200 criteria that Google applies for ranking your content. And optimizing your content for search engine is like only like one small part of the entire puzzle. Like the technical aspects of your website play a crucial role. They are very important. Some aspects like, for instance, your site loading speed. If it takes like 10 seconds, 15 seconds to load your website, Google will not really like it. It's also if you haven't installed all kinds of security protocols and your website is not really safe for a user, Google will not really guide users to your website. So there are a lot of different aspects to consider. yeah, in a nutshell.
Yeah, and I understand it's a puzzle. There are different aspects, and if you just focus on maybe one aspect, it would maybe not work. But let me go back to actually, yeah, the main topic of our session here. That's the copywriting, because that is a big part of the magic that happens somewhere at the beginning of the whole process. And as you are writing great contents, web contents, SEO friendly contents, and so I would just like to ask you, what is then the difference between copywriting that maybe, well, I know from 20 years in the industry, the traditional copywriting and the print media, and what is then the difference compared to the SEO friendly copywriting we're talking here about for the web copy?
So a major difference between SEO copywriting and copywriting is, when you talk about SEO copywriting, we talk about everything that gets published on the internet, on the web. And traditional copywriting can be anything. It can be print ads. It can be email marketing. It can be email copy. It can be anything that's not published on a website. So when we talk about SEO copywriting, so we talk about web content. What's also a bit confusing, like the terminology in the industry, there's no like consensus about what it is really, like what's SEO copywriting.
Perhaps it coming past and get a picture.
I just muted everyone because there was like a dog and a conversation in the background, but Sylvia, you're welcome to come back.
Okay, I'm unmuted now. So yeah, so there's no consensus really what SEO copywriting really is. When you Google it, everybody has a different opinion about it. So some people even distinguish SEO copywriting between SEO copywriting and SEO content writing. And they say SEO content writing is writing content that's main purpose is to attract traffic to a website, mainly via blog posts. And some people say SEO copywriting, in contrast, that purpose of this copy is then to kind of convert this traffic into sales and into buyers. I personally don't like to make this distinction. I think for me, SEO content writing, SEO copywriting is pretty much the same. It's true maybe for SEO copywriting, you need to apply more sales copy. It's a bit more engaging, like when you write buttons, for instance, or like you write calls to actions to make sure that it's engaging, where the user wants to click there and maybe get further information or buy products or services. But in general, it's the same for me.
Okay, that's interesting. And it's interesting, the different definitions that you brought up. I guess it has to do in a certain way as well with the explosion of content, on the web, and then different roles are overlapping. But I like what you say. I mean, the content needs to be good, and that's the first step. Whether you want to convert or whether you want to drive website traffic, doesn't matter. And but if there's no call to action, then it's also a shame. So very good content and no call to action, would also be a pity. So, we know that that the biggest challenge of most, let's call them content creators, is optimizing for search engines. It's just as I mentioned before, it's not writing the content often. So if I just think about the language solution or language service providers I've been working with, they know exactly who is their target group. They know their audience. They know exactly what are the hot topics. They know actually what to write about, but still something goes wrong because the content's just out there, it's static, no engagement, and they don't even know whether they are connected to their audience. So it could be a problem of measuring that, but often I see that it's also the type of writing, the style of writing. So really the customer-centric writing about what your customer is about the problems your customer or ideal customer is struggling with, and not about how your process works. So that is often, of course, an issue, but it's not that much about not that much the topic for us today. So we presume that everyone who's here has the skills or has access to people who write great content, but still we want to give everyone who's here and who's writing themselves or who outsource projects to professional partners in terms of web copywriting, website revamp, website creation. How can they get started to get it right from the get-go, Sylvia? Do you have some best practices tips?
So let's start with this important section. So how can we turn the copy into copy that's optimized for search engines? So as I pointed out before, like that, these two major components, and that first is like the copy itself, and the second is the technical part, how to optimize it. And the technical part we'll cover in a later question. But let's talk about the copy itself. So there are like a few guidelines, I would say, to observe. And I see like a lot of people on the internet that don't observe any of it. And it's actually not like rocket science. It's pretty easy. Let's start. Okay, like here's my mobile phone. Like Google has been mobile first since a few years now. That means the way your copy appears on the phone is like a ranking factor, and Google doesn't even consider like how your copy looks like on a desktop. So we really need to make sure that a lot of people nowadays, they browse content on like their smartphone, on their tablet, that everything you write looks really good on this small screen. So that can be a challenge. So there are just some general guidelines we can make sure that the copy looks good. So let's start with readability. Like there are some guidelines to keep your sentences short. Like people have there have been studies that show that reading on a mobile device works different for people than reading a book or reading printed materials. So the consensus is to simplify your writing a little bit, to use shorter sentences and shorter paragraphs. If for English, the guideline is your sentences should not be longer than 16 to 20 words. So that's a kind of a medium-sized sentence, I would say. And the second guideline is to make short paragraphs. A paragraph should be maximum 2 or 3 sentences. There are some people who swear on like 1 sentence paragraphs. Maybe you've seen blog posts like this. I personally am not a big fan because I think it doesn't read well, the text doesn't flow well, but it shouldn't be like this wall of copy. So you need to make sure that your user, like the reader, doesn't scroll endlessly through text and text and text. So the second point is like structure the copy, break it down with subheaders, make it very structured, use a lot of white space, like have like line breaks and empty lines in between your different paragraphs, different sections. Break the copy up with maybe a quote, a photo, something else, an illustration. That could be also a video, integrate a video into the copy. Some people might not be interested to read the entire text, but they just want to see the video. People also on the phone, they have a tendency to skim read and to scroll. So it's unlikely that somebody will really read your blog post or your copy from top to bottom. So they just, like we do when we are bored, we scroll through the text. And so it's important really to highlight the important sections in the paragraph, highlight some strategic phrases that are important. So the user can scroll there and see, yeah, that's the information I was looking for. I'll read that. Another interesting factor, which is more for English than for German, is like vocabulary. There have been studies and best practices. They say that you should only write for the average user that is like 12 years old. It sounds weird because we're adults, but still, it's harder for us to to read and process copy on mobile devices. So best practice, especially when we write for a B2C, is to simplify also our vocabulary. Of course, if your target group are like engineers or doctors, of course, you will use like a more sophisticated vocabulary. But in general, when you talk to a user, use like simpler vocabulary. There are a few apps and tools, free tools on the internet where you can just drop your copy and it will check it and it will give you a readability score, a grade about how complex, how difficult your copy is. It will also tell you if you use too many long sentences or like your paragraphs are too long, so you can adapt and modify your content and simplify it a little bit, make it more readable.
Sorry to interrupt you, Sylvia.
Yeah.
You just mentioned there are a couple of tools that can help to simplify your copy. I find that really, really interesting. So would you mention the ones you use, or do you have any ones you can recommend?
Yeah, so for English, there are actually many more tools for English than for German. I haven't really found good tools for English, for German, and I think the same problem exists in other languages. For English, it's called Hemingway Editor. That does the trick. It's a free tool online. You can drop your content there. Another great tool just to check for your grammar and readability is also Grammarly. We have that. If you work with WordPress, you might have an SEO tool installed like Yoast. Yoast also has a readability checker and tells you, oh, your sentences are too long, and so on. So there are like a lot of tools out there.
Indeed, a lot of tools. I just typed a couple in the chat, so if anyone is interested. I know it's now, I don't want to really take us away from our red line, but as you're talking about tools, what about AI tools, the new tools like copy.ai or texta.ai? There are many now coming up to tools that are made to provide good copy. Maybe sometimes it's just an outline or an idea, but they are getting better and better and better in suggesting even multilingual copy for website, copy for blog, copy for posts. With an experience with that? Any?
No, actually, I have never used some of these tools, but I heard it's also discussed in the copywriting community. It's the same with machine translations for translators. Translators are afraid the machines will take over the jobs, and copywriters feel the same. What I heard so far, it can be a useful tool, especially for people that are not copywriters, like small business owners that want to write their own copy for a website and they cannot afford to actually hire a copywriter. I think for like those customers, it can be a good starting point to get help. But I think if you have the budget, I think like a real person, a real copywriter, yeah, it's maybe more beneficial. But I think it has its use.
Okay, yeah, good, thank you. Yeah, when I'm always trying to apply what we discuss and think about practical applicants, and we can't talk about copywriting and SEO and without touching keywords, right? The famous keywords. And I'm now remembering back, it must have been something like 8 years ago. I was working for a translation agency, a language solution provider at that time. And actually it was my first project from a big customer coming across my way who asked for translation and search engine optimization. It was a big, oh, what will we do now at that moment? And then I was involved in outsourcing part of the project and finding an external partner for doing the SEO part. Our team was responsible for translating and localizing into 35 languages, and we would be looking for an external partner for this thing that was called SEO. And I know it's far more advanced, the process now, when we talk about multilingual content, bringing that together with the search engine optimization and keywords. But what we did at that point was really separating the two things, and it's a mistake. We know that, of course, and we learned a lot from that first project, and we created better partnerships, and we created then better processes, because you can't just separate it. And just wanted to mention that I still see often that when it comes to translation and search engine optimization, then it's actually dealt with keyword lists. So then there are these keyword lists, and then you fill them in, and then you use them for the translation, and then you think it's search engine optimized German copy or French, Italian, whatever. Can you say something about the keywords in your daily life and copywriting?
Yeah, keywords. So keywords are a little bit I would say, the backbone of the SEO copywriting. So as I said, like Google crawls the internet, crawls and indexes the content. The algorithm is very advanced nowadays. It can, understand like a lot of like human language, what we're trying to say, but it's not perfect. So the best way is to teach Google what our web page is about, and we do this via keywords. So we put the keywords in strategic spots on the page. And so Google will figure out, okay, this website is about this particular topic and not about that topic. And so keywords do indeed matter, but I think they are also a bit overrated.
But basically, so if I'm a translation service provider, if I deal with translations and I deal with lists and Excel spreadsheets and keywords, it's nothing wrong about it, right? It's a good start, but I really need to do a bit more than just translating.
Yeah, definitely.
Keywords, like, of course.
So what a lot of people get wrong, so I think you can put you just put a lot of keywords into like on your website, on one blog post, for instance, or on your homepage, and Google will just consider all of them, and you'll rank for like these 5, 10, whatever, 20 different words. But this is not the case. So what's very important to consider is you always need one primary keyword per web page. So you can only have this one keyword, and you optimize one blog post only for this one specific keyword. Also your homepage, on your homepage, you would only use this one keyword, and you cannot use 5 different ones. And the problem is, like, this one keyword you chose, you shouldn't really use it anywhere else on your website. Because when we have something called keyword cannibalism, you have like 2 web pages that both go for the same keyword. So let's say user types this particular keyword in the search field, and then Google thinks, okay, like I have 2 websites here, like 2 web pages. Well, which one is the most relevant for the user? So they kind of cancel each other out, and it doesn't help if you have like content that's overlapping. And I think a lot of companies or small companies don't understand this, so that we cannot just stuff random keywords on our website, but it needs to be really strategic. So that's what SEO consultants or SEO strategists do. They map out, they do a keyword mapping of an entire website, and they just assign one primary keyword to one page.
Very interesting, picking one keyword and per page or per blog. You were moving a bit in the technical part. Let's do that. We have a couple of more aspects that we want to discuss, and you said it's one really important part of the big puzzle. So can you share some best practices around the technical aspect of SEO?
So I think the easiest is if I share my screen and just show you how you can actually now really optimize your content for Google, for search engine, on a practical example.
Let's see. That's a great idea.
Okay. Oh no, wait. Just a sec.
Yeah, I think it was the other.
Yeah, I should not move
thing
this.
that you- So when we talk about the technical part of copywriting, so we're really talking about it, and with regard to the keywords, how can we make sure that we're not that we really place all the different puzzles in the right place, that we use the keywords in the right place and don't overcharge the websites, and where should they appear? I think that's the
Okay, where do they
approach,
appear?
right?
Yeah. So yeah, important part is, so keyword stuffing, that's like an outdated method that is really 90s, I think, that you put your keyword like all over your web page. And now Google is really into the user experience. User experience is like one of the most important aspects of your website. And so that's readability. So it needs to be text that flows well and has high quality. So actually, we only need to put the keywords in a few, around 8 strategic parts or points of your website or of your copy. So the most important one that start is the so-called URL slug. So that's actually like the URL, the name of that particular website. So I chose a blog post here from Toon. Like, she's an Australian copywriter and SEO expert. She was my SEO mentor. I learned a lot from her. And I'm also a member of the Clever Copywriting School, which is also hosted by Toon. So Kate wrote this article. It's one of her most popular blogs on her website. It creates tons of traffic for her business. And so the article is called Copywriting Rates, How Much Should You Charge? So from what I can see when I read this blog post, I see that the primary keyword of this blog post is copywriting rates. So this is this one primary keyword. So the blog post doesn't talk about any other site topics. What you can also use besides the one primary keyword is a few synonyms, like 2 to 3. So they also appear a lot on this blog post, and that are the words charge, pricing, copywriter's charge, copywriter pricing, and so on. And those appear also on this blog post. So now we can see that Kate used that primary keyword, so copywriting rates, like right in this URL slug. So that's very important. We shouldn't forget it. So we should, if your content management system allows it, it's better to change the title or change the URL to like what you want. It doesn't necessarily need to be the title of your blog post or web page, but it can be very specific. So include the keyword here. So she did it here. The second most important part is the headline, the main headline. In SEO terms, that's called H1. And this is this one here. So it also starts with the main keyword. That's perfect. Then we go on with the introduction. Like, the keyword should appear in the first 100 words of your post, of your website. So that's mainly the introduction. You can also even highlight it in bold. Google understands formatting. It will actually understand that you highlighted something in bold, that this must be important. So it's also wise to highlight your keyword in bold in maybe the first 100 words of your post. And Kate did do it here, but it's just an option. So then we go on with other headlines. So besides that H1 headline, like, there are subheaders, and they can range from H2 to H6. Most websites don't actually go to H6. I've never really seen H6, but this is like the second headline. So also here she uses the keyword in charging. And then we go on another headline. She also uses the keyword like here. And I think this is the header free, H3. The keyword is used here. Another thing I forgot when we talked about how to structure copy, what's also very recommended for SEO is to use bullets and numbering to structure your blog post or your website. So that's also something Kate did here. It makes easier readability, and you can easily skim through your copy.
And she added a video, I see.
And a video, yes. And also But this is more for readability for users to kind of brighten up the page, like quick to tweet. So you could also click here and like share some inspiring quotes on Twitter if you want to. But that's more for aesthetic reasons, not really for SEO. So the other important things where we need to put the keywords is actually something we can't obviously see on the web page. It's the so-called metadata. It's like the data that is embedded in your blog post on your website. You cannot just enter it on the page. You need to use like a plugin, for instance, in WordPress. You can use a plugin like Yoast to put your metadata there. In Squarespace, you have the extra SEO field where you can put this important data. So how does it look like? So I have a little plugin installed here. I think it's called SEO META in one click. And it shows me all this hidden metadata on like a website. So what's super important is the meta title. And what's this meta title? So the meta title is if we go to Google and now we have a question, we type it in a search field, and here for this post, how much does a copywriter cost? So, and we get a results page. And like this part, what's in bold here, that is that meta tag or meta titles. Like very important, is one of the main criteria, ranking criteria for on-page copy. And that's limited to around 60 characters, more or less. Some people say it's actually in pixels, not characters. But it needs to be very short. It needs to include your keyword, preferably your keyword right at the beginning, and then the rest of the copy later. And this is what your user will see when they Google something. So the next important part is the meta description. And what's the meta description? That's like the a little bit shorter or longer explanation that pops up underneath here. So I have like a lot of plugins installed, so my search results might look a little bit different than yours. So this is the copy that should be engaging, that if a user is interested and wants to know, okay, how much does a copywriter charge? How much does it cost? Like you will skim through here and look for the post that's most relevant to your question. So this should be very engaging and make you click and actually go to that website. Google has recently changed its algorithm to, it actually now tries to figure out itself what it's going to put here. It will just take some content data from your page and put it here. But best practice is still that you define what should be displayed here, and that's like in the meta description. That's what you can see here. So this is a 150 character long teaser about the main content of this website or this blog post, this page.
So actually the first thing you could do is install that plugin and check your own website if you're interested in.
Yeah, it's a free plugin.
A couple of, yeah.
It works in Chrome. I don't think it works in Firefox. That's why I installed it here in Chrome. It's actually really useful to easily see what's the metadata of your web page, because it's not obvious, and it's also good to check competitors, for instance.
I see you are really in your element, Sylvia. So, but I also need to be conscious of time.
All right. Okay.
I think it's really relevant and interesting. We have a question from the audience. What's the name of the tool? Could you just type it maybe in the chat?
Yeah, I'll type it when I finish my presentation. It's like SEO META in one click.
Okay. Yeah. Or share it afterwards. No? Very helpful. Okay,
let me quickly wrap it up. Give me like 3 more seconds. So the other really important things what people forget is images. And images are also important for keywords. So what we see here at Kate, like this big banner she has on top of her blog post, it's actually called copywriting rates, and it includes the primary keyword here. It's really important so Google can understand what this blog post is about. And she uses also a secondary keyword in like later here, copywriting rates again. Another thing is you can also describe what's on the image. It's called like an alt description. And even here, you can also put your keyword. So that's really important to consider. Another important element are like links. We didn't actually talk about links. It's like a...
It's the next session, I think.
Yeah, but it's also important to, if you have a blog post, to link from another post or site on your website back to this particular blog post using that keyword. I don't know if it makes sense.
Yeah, I think it does. It's very. I think what I also already taking from our session is that as we're focusing now on the copywriting part and what can you do to have an optimized search engine, optimized search visibility, and it could be a next session to talk about really the big puzzle, taking up every single aspect and the links as well and backlinks and everything. Really, SEO meta in one click. I see it. Okay.
Right.
Let me take up one more topic before we open for questions or any comments from the audience. I've seen, of course, the blog you shared, Ideal blog, and there was a video, and I would like to touch that point, the power of video, or how powerful video as a format can be, and what is copywriting of video scripts. Very briefly, it's not the main topic, but I think it really makes sense if you're revamping your website, if you are if you're a content writer, if you outsource it, or if you localize it. Video is playing an important role. We see it in all kinds of reports. Cisco annual report says this next year 82% of the internet content will be video, including, of course, the stream and our zooming here and everything. But it is a powerful medium, so we can't forget about that. So let me just quickly share the poll. If you're still there, just please go to your mobile phone, and it's the last question from the poll. I just want to know whether you use video for your sales and marketing, for your own sales and marketing currently. Please let me know. I can also just drop the link once more in the chat. So, okay, you don't, what I see so far, most people don't use video currently. Just have a look at the chat in case you want to vote. Still, click on the link, type in the passcode CopySEO, and let me know. So this is how the poll looks like at the moment. So most of the people here in our session are 80% are not using video. So 7% are exploring, interested in maybe using that kind of medium. It is very powerful. Our brains love video, and we can digest certain type of information really far easier in a video format than in a plain text format. Let me, while you're still voting, the vote remains open. Let me really summarize it for you. So if you're exploring video, if you are starting with video marketing, the script is a key element of the video. So the video can just be as good as the script is. So I can share with you a little insight in how we work with my new startup company, aivideo-pro. There we produce videos for sales and marketing and e-learnings with the help of AI. But not only, we use different tools, and you see we always start with a brief. The brief is important. As any project, we need to understand the scope, the audience, the context, and then the script writing is actually divided in various parts. So the same writing rules Sylvia described apply. Actually, the same SEO rules apply. It's just a different type of format. But if you need to be concise, if you, as Sylvia said, need to simplify your content, let's say your brain thinks in the dimension of a very experienced scientist, then you need to break it down and simplify. That's pretty difficult task. For video, you even need to make it more concise, shorter. A video that you use on a website can be longer for certain purposes than a minute, or for a teaser longer than 30 seconds. But what we do, script writing, first we write the video script, including all layers of text that are included in video, that for example, the title and a description, and captions or on-screen text that goes for sign off to the customer. And then we create a phonetic script. So that is like an extra or an added challenge when we talk about copywriting for video. And there sometimes there can be a clash when it comes to keywords, for example, because the video needs to be so concise and short. Then the whole thing goes into production and post-production. That's not now my main focus. Just wanted to show you the main the overall process, in that the script writing for video, as video is just really a rising format, is something really interesting for the language industry specifically. I would just quickly show you two cases where that explain a little bit the result of adding video to landing pages. In this case, what you see now is CPH Nano. It's a Danish medical device company, and their goal was actually to increase the search visibility to be found on the web, and they added in this case in TJ video. So they added video to their landing pages for every single product, a video. You can have a look at it afterwards, but it's more or less like this. It's actually simple videos, but they explain the product, every single product. They have loads of products, so every single landing page for a product has a video on it. And as we said before, SEO is something that it's a process. It takes time, and over the period of 3 months, they were able to double their search visibility. Then another project that I was looking at is DocuLive. It's a company that developed integration and plugins for Salesforce, and they are global, they are multilingual, and they added a video to their marketing as we see that video is becoming more and more important, and their goal was actually to start with video marketing. They were not able to do that in the past because it can be quite expensive and time and cost consuming. So they started adding video to their marketing at all. That was their goal. Get started, get prepared for this 2022 where video will be so dominant, and they create now video 20 times faster. And actually, in that case, they save 80% of their marketing budget compared to what they did before. So, yeah, I just wanted to share this very briefly, as I think video is really coming, and writing good scripts for video is really important, and it's kind of a sub area of SEO friendly copywriting, because video, of course, can be optimized for Google, all kinds of search engines, and for YouTube, depending on where the video is published. And when we talk about YouTube, just to connect to what Sylvia said before in terms of best practices and the way you integrate your keyword and your SEO strategy into videos, it's just the same. The technical part is there as well. So the file name, for example, of a video plays a role. The tags that you can add when you publish, for example, on YouTube as a platform, the thumbnail has a relevance for being found on the internet. This transcript as well, and adding captions or other layers of text, specifically closed captions, can really be helpful for search engine optimization, as they are well found by Google and Co. Yeah, being aware of time, there is so much still to be said about video copywriting. I think it's really exciting, and specifically the fact that you also need to take the phonetic writing into account. But let's now call the audience here on the field, if you like, and as this is an open session, a live session. Any questions from your side? That's now the moment. We have 10 minutes left after the dance and really enlightening information from Sylvia, the practical use cases, the blog you shared. It was really interesting. Maybe there are some questions about video copywriting. Just let us know. You can type in the chat. I can read your question, or if you dare, just pop up, just ask yourself, or even comments are really welcome. Okay, I see a question in the chat. James, I've seen your hand.
Yeah, just this is quite a short session for the amount of information. I think that you're going to have to break it up into maybe 3 or 4 sessions, because there's a lot of stuff to go at here. Very interesting. Yeah, I mean, I joined today just to check the boxes, make sure I'm doing everything right. And so far, I think I am. So thanks very much for that. Yeah, you're talking about the keywords. Do you have any free keyword tools that people might be able to use? I use SEMrush, but I'm paying $100 a month for it. So no, but maybe there's some free stuff out there that other people might be interested in that I haven't heard of.
Not sure about you, Sylvia. Either suggest
SEMrush. That's pretty pricey. I think the cheapest SEO tool on a market, which isn't so bad, is like Ubersuggest. That's pretty affordable, and they sometimes even have some special offers like a lifetime access. I think for $250 or so, you could get lifetime access. Like there are a few free plugins you can store also in Chrome. Actually, I don't use them very often. What I have in my own, I think it's called, what's it called? Keywords Everywhere. That's something I have installed in my browser. That's pretty useful.
Great.
Yeah, but to be honest, if you want to have a really good tool, you have to pay for it, because it's a lot of data, a lot of knowledge in those tools. So most companies don't really give it away for free.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll check out those tools. Thanks very much. I mean, I'm using SEMrush, but yeah, as you say, it's pretty pricey.
Like one option is to share like your SEMrush subscription with somebody else, for instance, because you can have like 5 websites on there. So that's an idea.
Okay. I have another question from Rebecca. Should a blog always be long form content, or is little and often multi-topic better?
Definitely long form content. This is best practice. A blog post should not be shorter than 800 words, preferably. There have been countless like studies from different companies, and it always shows like long content performs better. It's yeah, of course, if you're on the homepage, for instance, or you have a service page or a product page, well, you write as much as you have to write to describe your service or your product. So if it's not 800 words, it's not 800 words. It's actually pretty long for a service page. But if it's possible, I would rather write a little bit more and have like one high quality, informative blog post instead of breaking it into too many smaller ones.
Okay, thank you. Is that a good answer, Rebecca? I hope so. There was another question, about video. If the video takes a long time to load, doesn't it hurt search engine optimization? I think it definitely hurts the user experience, and that's of course very important as well. not necessarily the search engine optimization, but if the content on the website takes long to load, then it's a bad user experience, and the speed of the website, of course, plays an overall role in the rankings as well. Unless you want to add something, Sylvia, I have a couple of more questions. Yeah, a good question, really good question here from Rina. Does Google recognize the different forms of rate, and does it distinguish between verbs and nouns? How intelligent?
Different forms with rate. Are we talking about keywords that? Yeah, so Google, like when we talk about keywords, Google is pretty smart. It will actually know that you talk about the same thing if you have a verb instead of a noun. Also, for instance, for German, like we have different endings on verbs or nouns. Sometimes Google is actually clever enough to understand what you want to talk about. It will also understand typos. You've probably seen it, like you type something in the search field and you made a typo and Google says, oh, did you actually mean this? So it's pretty smart. So it doesn't need to be like this one word in that form in your keywords on your page. It's better to stick to proper grammar, proper spelling.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just going through the comments before the time is up. I'm seeing a comment here from actually from Charlotte, considering it, but I'm not comfortable on camera. So I think that was related to one of the tools that we mentioned, right? So if I get your question right, if you're not comfortable in front of the camera, of course you can produce videos. There's so many types of videos. It really depends on the scope, on who you're talking to. Is it more an explaining video? You can consider animation. You can consider synthetic content nowadays, really, really good quality of avatars or digital. You don't necessarily need to put yourself in front of the camera to produce good videos, and sometimes you shouldn't. Because I know being authentic is so important, and it creates traction, and that is what people want to see. But not all of us are the digital natives, at least I am not. So if I try to be authentic in front of a camera and just go for it, it just doesn't work for me. So yeah, short answer, there are very different types of videos, and depending on the scope, on the audience, and what you want to do with the video, there are different possibilities. You don't need to put yourself in front of the camera, right?
That's good news for all introverts here.
Yes, I know there are these videos and are these encouragements, just get started, and then these checklists if you want to put yourself in front of the camera and do something professional. Have this round lamp which is standing over there as well, and the Instagram lamp it's called, I think, and it's all fine, but if you want to produce a Christmas video, let's say, and talk to someone really from the bottom of your heart and in person, if you send a video instead of an email to a customer, that's of course really good to use Loom or one of these tools. It really works. It really works to talk an email instead of, or to send a video instead of an email. Yeah, for professional, different kind of tools. So I have to move to another meeting. Thank you, Isabella. Thank you for having been here. And we are at the end of our time. I will go through the chat to see that we, in case we miss any question, we will answer to it afterwards. Last question from my side, maybe to James and everyone. You mentioned this was a fully loaded session. I know. What topic would you like to dive in a bit deeper?
Okay, maybe keyword analysis a little bit, which words, yeah, because I mean, from SEMrush, they have this little counter and it tells you red is like this one you can't rank for. Maybe some tips on how people can rank for words that aren't too competitive. This might be a good topic for the future. And also AI tools that can help you. I have a great one, it's called Phrase, and it helps optimize the actual content. So you give it to your copywriter, then you can put it through this tool and it will analyze the content and say, hey, you're missing these words because for this content, most people have these words included in their content. Try and put these in. I'll paste it over and I'll put it there for anyone who's interested in the software. I'm not affiliated with them at all, but I've been using them. They're really great, and it saves me a lot of time. And it also has a tool which you can do. You can strip out, you can put in a word, something that you're searching for, or a topic, and then it will give you a load of words, and then you can make like a project brief to give to your copywriter. So I do this, it's a really good workflow, and it saves me so much time because, sitting, writing content and then finding all the keywords and then putting them in, it's just a bit of a headache. So there we go, there's a tool. All right, thanks very much. That was a great session.
Thanks, James, for the feedback. Thanks to everyone who joined. Let us know in case there are any questions or any topics that you would like to dive in afterwards. I'm really curious to hear that. We will have follow-up sessions around copywriting, about SEO, about how to make video part of your overall strategy and succeed in using video from the get-go, and the tools. Very interested and interesting for me as well. So everyone, thank you. Have a great rest of the day wherever you are, evening, night.